Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the September 19th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first thing on our agenda are our minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections, gentlemen?
I don't.
Okay,
I move to approve the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners for Montezuma County for September 12th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, September 12th, 2023. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is planning. Come on down. Looks like we have a discussion
morning.
on an exemption application.
Correct. So the Ed and Sheryl Merritt are proposing to amend their two properties that were created by exemption. The west property was created in the 70s, and the east property was supposed to have been included in that, but it wasn't, so the First Amendment created the east parcel out of that same exemption, and now they are doing basically a boundary line adjustment, so it's just the Second Amendment of those exemptions. They're moving that property line at the south of the west lot down, so it basically splits the lots in half. There's a house on the west property, and the way it's configured now, conceivably, whoever buys the property on the east could build over there southwest of the existing house and kind of block their views and everything. So they just thought it would be better to split it now and take care of that issue so it's not a problem, and they're planning on selling their properties or building a new house, different location.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I don't have anything.
I don't have any questions on this. I mean, we're just moving it vertical instead of horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
And this first one was done in the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner? They're both going to be 20 plus acres.
Right. And the east parcel's just vacant right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would so move we approve the exemption amendment application to resolution P-82-77 ATF submitted by Sheryl H. Merritt Living Trust on property located at 28244 Road T.5 Dolores.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the exemption amendment application to resolution number P-82-77 ATF submitted by Sheryl H. Merritt Living Trust on property located at 28244 Road T.5 Dolores, Colorado. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there's your approval.
Thank you.
Pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah, that one's not too difficult
I like that.
or confrontational.
I really like that. All right. Anything else?
Nothing pressing at the moment. Just the usual.
Okay.
Unless you
Okay.
guys have something.
I don't.
Commissioner?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Like you're
Thank you.
good to go for the week. All right, thank you, guys. All right, public comment. I'm going to ask again, are we going to have any public comment? I don't see a lot of people in the room today.
kind of a break. All right, well then we're gonna go right by our public comment, and we'll go right into our department reports. Sheriff's Office.
Travis. Nope. Where you at, Vicky?
Sheriff, real quick, when you connect, bear with me before you start because we figured out the process that we might have to go through to make this
Oh,
work.
no kidding?
Yes.
You changed the rules on me again. Oh
No,
my God.
no, it's technology rules.
I am not an IT tech.
It does not involve aluminum foil yet.
It might, I don't know. Okay, well, you just tell me
So,
what. I already have enough trouble trying to connect. Gee. Anyway, good morning, Commissioners, Travis, Kim. Good morning.
I'm gonna try it. This is the process I was given.
You have to hold your hand like that all the time?
I'm hoping, I'm giving it good vibes.
I may have been wrong about the aluminum foil.
We're gonna try one more time, sir.
Shoot.
That don't work either. That's all yours.
We're right back to where it was at before, huh? Okay, it's all right. It's okay. It's connecting. It's doing some weird things here, so, okay. Bear with me. All right. For the month of August, for the Sheriff's Office, our calls for service were 1,792. The largest increase, of course, is just all of the different calls for service that we have. A lot of domestics, verbal disputes, a lot of traffic, 104 traffic contacts, a lot of traffic crashes, traffic fatalities. The coroner will probably speak to that as well. Drug cases, and I believe some probably attempted drug overdoses in the city. Our increases in mental health calls is also increasing. We had 6 missing person reports. Just to let you know that one that was missing in June was recovered first part of the month. He was located in that area in the West Mancos River. It was a 6-hour recovery, myself and a couple of deputies, and with the assistance of search and rescue. So that was an accidental drowning on that missing person that we searched for. We had another one just Saturday, but that hunter was found on the La Plata County side. So that one was a safe recovery. Nobody was hurt, so that was good. Other than that, any questions about our calls for service in the month of August?
No. No, never mind. I was gonna say there's been and it doesn't affect you,
Oh.
rash, but I think it affects the general public. There's been a rash of burglaries out on, like, in the East Empire Street area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
secure your homes.
Yes. And, you know, we've had, we had 3, it was this month and not last month, but we had 3 burglaries on County Road CC, one north of Dolores off of Highway 145. We have identified the suspect and are building that case for arrest and prosecution. So hopefully we can recover the property. And if he's watching and listening, we're coming. So, okay, we're coming. Just a matter of time. I know that probably ought to be a good time to bring up the increase in the violence as far as the drive-by shootings and shootings from motor vehicles. There's been more in the city of Cortez. and anywhere. However, last weekend we had one in Dolores that ended up in a pursuit. The suspect was apprehended, arrested, and several search warrants were executed. That case will be putting together. We did catch that individual. The one in Cortez this last weekend, one I understand is in custody. The others are identified. All the vehicles were obtained, so it's just an increase of what we're starting to see, that we're not immune to what goes on in the rest of the state and in our country, unfortunately. So doing the best we can with it. Biggest help that we've had is our public that will definitely help us in identifying those responsible, both vehicles or persons, and that's been a big help. So, in the jail report for the month of August, you'll see the monthly and the yearly totals for transports. That is increasing. We're not even through the year yet. We're just through the month of August, and there are the expenses. We are getting reimbursements on juvenile transports and restitution that's requested, so we are getting reimbursements for those. Okay. There is, I just saw recently today that there's an increase in 2 more additional beds in DYC in Grand Junction for the 22nd Judicial District. I don't know if that takes away what we had there, but we're starting to utilize, unfortunately, DYC for juvenile crimes and intakes more and more all the time. When other agencies are have a juvenile intake, they're responsible for the transports. However, once they're in the court system, then we have to deal with the transports from court order to bring them down for court and back. Such will be the case in later this month. I told you last month about the two felony cases. One was a homicide involving a juvenile. That plea deal was nixed by the court. We're going to trial, so that'll be a week and a half or up to 2-week trial. That transport will happen. Juvenile will be held in a juvenile detention facility in New Mexico, and so there will be some additional expenses with that. Today we have 79 inmates, 3 of them being held for Department of Corrections transport, down from 9 that we had, and plus 1 female. This is the totals that we've had for the month of August. 19 from the municipal side, which is mostly Cortez police. And Dolores County ended up with 9 total for the month of August. Incarcerated, we have 3 in custody now for Dolores County. This is our expenses for the month of August for the detention center. Total cost of prisoners, $229,600. The state has been invoiced for $6,800 for those inmates. Dolores County, $8,200. And looks like the city of Cortez, $6,200. The sheriff's fees that were collected and monies turned into the general fund are listed there, $56,227.08 for the month of August. Any questions about that? Okay. We are having to deal with more assaults on detention deputies. We had 3 of them in the past month and a half. They've all been charged. So there's additional stays in the detention center because of that. So it is what it is. I just got notified by Axon, who is the company that manufactures the tasers, which are less lethal, not less than lethal, but less lethal, means for controlling persons that are out of control that you cannot put hands on to try and control and avoid excessive force. They're actually moving to, we have the X2. I'm the only one that has the old ancient X26, but it works. They're actually getting rid of the manufacturer and support for those units and going to what they call the X10. That will happen within the next couple of years, where they'll start phasing that out. We will not be able to utilize them for repairs or anything, or parts for the X2s that we have in 2 to 3 years. We're looking at a total cost of about $248,000 to replace those with the X10. The thing is that it's a $50,000 for 5 years after that, annually. It's one of those things that what the reason they're doing this, from what they've told me, is to attempt to reduce the use of deadly force on our citizens during police encounters within this country. That's our thing. We're looking at other options, so there are other manufacturers out there, but they've been pretty reliable and work well and have always taken care of us. But this is the way that law enforcement is going in the future.
So is that that's another state mandate?
What's that? No,
Is
it's
that
not a
another-
state mandate.
So where's that coming from then?
From the
Where is it
company.
coming from? It's coming from the manufacturer.
Right, but once we have them from the manufacturer, I mean, where did the
Right.
mandate come from to have them?
As far as having those, through training, trying to get rid of having to put hands on in those serious encounters with people that you cannot control. Yeah, it brings them into control so that you can keep them safe as well as the officer safe. And you know, we've deployed several times over the past year. Had to. It was one of those things. So it removes that excessive force capability of the problems that you have when you go hands-on. With the state mandate about neck restraints, we train so hard to avoid that all the time. We can't put our arms around anybody's neck, no matter what. So that makes it's just that much more of tying hands behind our back. I don't want our citizens to get hurt, but if they're in violation and can't be controlled because of whatever means, whether it's a mental capacity, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be, I can tell you that being in a confrontation physically with somebody for any period of time increases that risk of somebody being seriously injured, if
Sure.
not killed. So that is what the tool that is used to help prevent that. So, it's one of those things I just wanted to bring to your radar, that down the road, we're looking at this, we're looking at other options to bring forth to see what we can do at a more reasonable cost, or something that will work better. There's been a lot of new technology that's come out that I won't use. The Bolero wrap is something that I just can't. It actually shoots a cable around somebody. I can just see the excessive force lawsuits and complaints come forward with that. That's why I'm not doing anything like that. That's just not right. So there are agencies that are using. We'll see what happens with them, but I'm not going to put us in that position. Okay? Last thing I know that we talked about was, well, there wasn't any talk, but I understand that I was told that you've made the decision to put on the government surplus the small John Deere tractor that we obtained through funding through the casino contract. There was no general funds attached to that I wanted to use in our range down south for snow removal and gravel moving. I just want to make sure that we keep this as transparent as possible for something that we have obtained through that. There's the records of the casino contract and the line item that it was paid for out of. I would like to reconsider if possible. If it I don't know why it has to be sold, but I don't understand the reasoning behind that. Could you help me with that?
The reason behind it, when we first originally talked, was it was being used for your stalls. And it's a very small tractor, which is not gonna move a mile, half a mile, a quarter of a mile of snow when there's a grader down there. I think this was brought up and the decision was made, and I mean, I'm just talking for me, not the other two gentlemen, that this has already been decided and it's going on public surplus. Since we talk about the casino contract that you bring up, I understand that services are still being provided down there when we were supposed to have ended that contract in June. So
We did.
let's talk about
I
the
did.
casino contract.
Yeah.
Because we were reached out to asking why we're not charging for those services. So
For our
I
calls
guess
for service down there?
for the casino contract of providing the security,
We don't provide security for the casino.
what are we providing?
We are providing law enforcement services when we're called down there. And under the
So
gaming
way I
grant,
understand it, because the casino contract was terminated, but we're still providing those services. Is that true or not true?
well, sure. I'm always gonna go down there when they call for assistance. And that's BIA or the casino security.
You're going in circles here. Just answer
I'm
the
not.
question. Are we providing service to the casino for the transport of the casino, for the casino's monies?
No, we
That's
don't,
not a
we
call
don't
for
provide
service, that is
transports.
security.
I do escorts, yes.
Escort security, whatever you want to call it.
It's an escort.
We had a contract, you terminated the contract, but yet we're still providing it. We're providing it, our taxpayers. So I guess the question is, we were reached out by the tribe, by the casino, of why are we not billing them? Well, we have no contract.
That's right, we don't. That ended
So
in
why
June.
are we still providing these services?
I'm always gonna provide services when called to do so. I always have, and I always will.
That is a
We were called down there just a
That's a
week ago.
specific
Listen, we were called down there a week
contract
ago because
for-
of fentanyl exposure to security personnel and other employees at that motel, okay?
I'm not talking about
That's
the
a service
motel.
that we
I'm talking
provide,
about the
okay?
contract for the transportation.
We don't transport anything.
No, we're providing security for the transport.
Yes, an escort.
Okay.
Mhm.
Escort.
That's
What-
right.
Okay, escort. I'll use the term escort. Why
Yeah.
are we still doing that?
Because that's done by on-duty officers.
I understand who it's done by.
Mhm.
Why are we doing it?
And it's also done by those that are working the gaming contracts. And the gaming contracts, we do walk-bys, or walk-throughs in the casino. That's paid for under that gaming contract.
Okay, well.
Or grant,
We can
okay.
discuss that at a later date. We're talking about this right now, and as far as I'm concerned, this is going on public surplus, and
Well,
that's where it'll be utilized.
I want to know if that is the decision of everyone at the board.
Yeah.
I thought that that's what we had decided previously.
That's what we
Well-
decided that day out there at the corrals.
The
Okay.
same day that we decided, and then we did it in public to allow you to keep, as long as it was okay with the city of Cortez, the one remaining corral
So what's going to
and
happen to the
barn.
money? What is going to happen to the money from the sale?
It goes back into the general fund. The casino contract goes into the general fund because
That-
we're using taxpayer dollars for the casino to provide services down there for escort.
Well, for everything else down there,
Escort.
okay?
There's no
Everything else.
tax revenue
There
that
was nothing in
comes-
that contract, Commissioner, about escorts. There was nothing in there.
That's
Nothing.
what you said we're doing.
Well, that's what I was doing because it was a call for service.
Okay, so why did we ever need the
If IFA calls you up
contract?
and wants to transport their deposit to the bank, you're going to escort them in?
Sure, we'll escort. If anybody needs an escort, we will. They're our citizens.
We're not
You
an
bet.
escort service.
I'm a law enforcement service,
We're law enforcement, correct, not escort.
not you.
Two different
me.
things,
No,
two different
it's
things.
not. It's not.
Anyway.
Okay?
We will be reaching out to the casino.
I don't care, that's fine. You can, but
We will.
I'm gonna be involved in any law enforcement talks, so, Okay.
Absolutely.
all right.
You're obviously providing the service, so you're
Of course
providing
I'm
it.
providing a
Well, we
service.
should be compensated for something that we're doing as an escort.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, wow, is right. Okay.
So, anyway. Commissioner, do you have anything
No.
on the chapter?
Further?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you ready for me?
Bit.
Okay. August was a different month. Pretty busy. We had 17 coroner cases, we had 11 hospice cases, we had 4 autopsies, we had 4 motor vehicle accidents, which resulted in fatalities. We only had 1 suicide, which is a lot better than last month. This thing's kind of in and out. We had 1 overdose. Pretty sure it's going to be fentanyl. We're still waiting on the talks for that to come back. That brings the year-to-date totals to 182 total cases with coroner cases and hospice. We've done 36 autopsies. We have a total of 10 motor vehicle fatalities, 10 suicides, 2 overdoses, and 4 homicides. Anybody have any questions?
September, you had some homicides.
Pardon?
This month's gonna show some homicide.
Yeah, probably so. So, okay, well, you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, George.
How do we compare, I mean, and you may not be able to answer this, but how do we compare with other counties of our size?
We're
Or is it because?
the only other
obviously-
county, I haven't checked last year's numbers, but the only other Category 3 county in the state that we're even close to is Montrose. And we're neck and neck with them. La Plata County, she called me last week, just out of curiosity, how many cases I was up to. At the time, I was at 103, she was at 94. They have double our population. So we have a lot of deaths around here compared to population in other counties our size and even bigger. There's a lot of Category 2 counties. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean population, but I think there was 4 Category 2 counties in the state that had more deaths than we did. So we have a lot of deaths.
Is it just because of an aging population? Is it because, what is it?
It's not necessarily the age. It's a combination of everything. I mean, last year we had a lot of infant deaths. This year, knock on wood, we haven't had too many. Drugs, as you can see, we kind of go up and down. We'll have 11 one year and we'll have 4 the next year. Alcohol is a big part of it. We have a lot of alcoholic liver failure, and that runs through everybody. So a lot of people think that since we have the reservation in our district, that really ups the numbers. It really doesn't. So I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. We have them from, newborns to 100 years old. And it's not all older population. Last year, I haven't had time to get all the numbers this year, but at one time this year, I know we were at like 50% of our deaths were 50 and under. So that's a big number for young people, which I consider young. So, no, we do have a lot of suicides. We're usually the highest in the state unless Dolores County per capita. If Dolores County has one, well, then they hit number one because of their population. But we have more than Denver metro area per 100,000 in any other county in the state. So that's part of it, but that's only a dozen deaths on average a year. So you can't really blame that on the total increase. So I don't know, can't figure it out.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
All
thank
right.
you.
see ya.
All right, our department reports are short this week, so we'll go into unfinished business, and these are some of the issues that we had on our workshop yesterday. We had a fund request yesterday, but we really never got a number from Hilltop House Community Corrections. And this is more or less, for lack of a better term, the halfway house, and I think they used that in their presentation yesterday. But as Commissioner Lindsay said, you know, we could be the other ones on the side of this table asking for the same thing. So I think we can go right on by this, gentleman, if you feel the
Yeah,
same way.
I
We
do.
really had no, we had no real ask other than they would bring us more information later on. So there is no decision regarding that today. We also had a presentation from Garcia Motorsports as it relates to the racetrack lease for the 2024 season. As it's described in here, the money is due up front per signing. We did it that way last year. After listening to Mr. Garcia yesterday, he said either way worked for him. And I think our attorney's advice is to keep it consistent, and that when the contract is signed, that he pays the money up front like he has in the past.
Well, I think you can do it either way. I mean, I don't, there's no, that's what we did before, so I don't know if, I don't
Well,
really care how we do it.
So
That's how it
from
reads
looking
right
at the
now.
contracts that we've had to deal with, specifically through the sheriff's office, is that if we don't get the money up front, things are gonna go awry on the backside. So I would personally like to say just the way the contract reads, and that if it's signed, the money is due up front, which then allows him to get in and do whatever he needs to do for his repairs as requested. Comments?
No, I just keep it the same.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, so then I guess we need a formal decision
So
on that.
I think at this point, what I would recommend is getting this over to Mr. Garcia for signature first. That way he can review all the terms and sign it. We've also got to get those Montezuma County Fair dates. I think they were going to set those yesterday evening, and so.
Yeah, I have those at my desk.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get that out to Mr. Garcia today, and then once he signs it, I'll bring it back to you guys for signature.
Okay. Travis, I'll let you take this next one, the decision related to the budget revisions for the 2024. We also went over this yesterday. We also had an additional packet. Hopefully, if you guys have any questions on that after your review, we can ask or answer them right now.
I don't have any. I've looked this over 2 or 3 times. It is what it is.
So I guess the biggest thing that we'll need in finance today is the route the commissioners want to go as it relates to the FTEs. Yesterday, there was discussion of leaving it at 69, which is currently filled, and then reducing it down to 65
Through attrition,
through attrition.
which is what was talked about. So,
But we'll need a decision today, because that's going to affect 2024.
how we budget for the open positions. What is your pleasure?
Trying to figure out how to word that.
So let me,
So, and partially, this is really a decision that's going to be made during the budget time.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure that this is a decision right now that we would make. We would make this come the time of the approval of the final budget, would be my understanding. So, I mean, I think
You just want guidance?
kind of putting the
Well,
cart before the horse with a motion
I
here
think the
today.
guidance then is that we stay current at the 69 FTEs, the 70,
Well, I guess my concern is this, is yes, it is for 2024 budget, But if we start putting additional people on just to fill positions, and we go to the 69 down to 65, now we're gonna have to backtrack and give the 90 days notice, so on and so forth. So I think, just in my thought and finance's thought is, we need a cutoff date, so if there's attrition now, then we don't get behind the 8 ball.
So, I mean, that money was budgeted for though in 2023, correct?
Correct.
And so, I mean, that money's already in the budget for this
For this
year.
year, but as we're budgeting for 2024, what he's saying is that, do we keep that budget for those positions that have been open
Yeah.
forever?
I understand, and I think that's a decision that has to be made when the 2024 budget's adopted. Now, I understand Mr. Anderson's concern that these positions may fill here in the next month or 2 months or 3 months. But, you know, ultimately, I think.
But then they're cut. I
I
guess
think-
what we're trying to avoid is you get somebody hired and in 2 months, say you hire them in November, and in 2 months, the position is not filled, or the position is now filled, but it's not budgeted for in the 2024 season. Now you have to go through the,
So I think if you guys want to look at conceivably cutting those positions before the 2024 cycle, that's going to require an amendment to the 2023 budget. Because that money's already in the budget. Those line items are in the 2023 budget, is my understanding, correct?
correct.
Well, maybe just some guidance at this point in time, and then, you know, if we have to do the budget amendment, then we can travel that path too. I guess right now, we just need some guidance on what the commissioners want to do, and then we can have some conversations.
Well, my position after looking at comparable counties of our size, our tax base, what we've looked at is we are grossly overstaffed, and we continue to do, just as I brought up this morning, special assignments and not doing what we're actually supposed to be doing. That's an opinion. So the positions have never been filled. They're never there. It hovers between 67 and 69. And with the budget shortfall that we're looking at, it's a way to help. We're not gonna have the money to pay for the additional FTEs.
I certainly understand the reasoning and what you're trying to do. I think it needs to be done via budget amendment, and I think if that's the direction that this board wants to go, then that needs to be put together and approved in the coming weeks.
And I get that, but if we only budget for the 69 FTEs for 2024.
I mean, that's
all
another
we're-
way to
that's
go
all the
about
that's
it.
That's,
Yeah.
okay. So
I
that's a
think if you want to alleviate the concern of deputies being hired on now, and then all of a sudden we get to the 2024 cycle, and now we're going to have to slash deputies in order to slash down to the new budget. I mean, I understand that concern.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, you know, if there are vacant positions now, certainly one way to go about it would be to do a budget amendment for 2023 to prevent that sort of a situation. You don't
So
have to.
Is that the best way to do it then?
I mean,
It might be beneficial, absolutely.
Okay.
I think the difficulty you run into when you amend a budget in season is that that money was budgeted for and it's being relied on by the elected official. And so if you now take that money, you've got to provide justification for it. So that would be my concern.
Which was why we were just, I think the question that Travis is asking is the direction of do we only budget for the 69s for 2024? And at that point in time, I guess if you have a new employee that's been there for a month, then he no longer has funding to be there.
That's up for you guys to decide. I mean, that certainly would be the course if that's the direction this board decides to go.
So it's just kind of like the grant funding. If the grant funding runs out,
Yeah.
the position doesn't
Doesn't
no
fill.
longer affect it. So which is your number? We looked at it.
And again, I think these kind of numbers, we can certainly talk about it now, but ultimately, this is something that really needs to be discussed in the context of the 2024 budget and the final approval of that budget.
And we don't do that until December
Exactly.
12th or something. Okay. So then direction is,
And I mean, nothing prevents the development of alternative budgets. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the board has to approve a final budget for each department and each elected official. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
And history has shown that we haven't exceeded the 69 in quite a while, if ever.
Correct.
But we're budgeting for 76. So it's our goal, I guess, or our set goal to reduce that number from 76 to 69, which is an actual number.
To 69 and then down to 65 for
Through
those-
attrition.
Through attrition for those others.
Yeah,
And then try to roll some funding back into the deputy salaries that's there.
yes.
That we'd
Yeah, I
receive.
mean,
Instead of
that's
just
always
keeping
our problem
open
is retention.
positions.
And part of the problem with retention is salaries. So we're trying to roll money into those salaries to maintain the deputies that we trained, that we paid to train.
Correct. And I guess my biggest thing is just trying to head off a possible problem in '24 if we ended up with, say, we had 74 for some reason.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's the direction, and then I can reach out, and then if we have to do the budget amendment, then we can address that as well.
So I'm with Commissioner Lindsay. I think the number is 69, and through attrition, we hit 65 because of the comparisons that we've done with the other counties of equal size and equal tax base, and we just have to quit doing special assignments. That's the issue, but we don't make that call. That's a call made by the elected official.
That's correct.
Because all we can do is look at the budget numbers, and when we're $1.1 million short, we have to figure out how to cut it somehow.
I think it's important
to distinguish budget from how an elected official does business.
Correct. And if all
And-
we're looking at are the numbers,
And I think the numbers are one thing, and I think that ultimately, an elected official has the duty to do his job as statutorily required. And whether or not this board
as
agrees,
statutorily required.
whether or not this board agrees with the way an elected official is doing business, that doesn't necessarily relate at all to the budget. I mean,
Right.
you have to give him, or you have to give any elected official the money that they need to do their job.
If we have the money.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And,
Which is
and
the
there's a
key.
difference. So, I want to dispel any sort of notion that budgets are being cut because we don't like the way an elected official is running their business.
No, that's not why we're doing that. We're looking at numbers of what we have.
I mean, for our audience out there, we went into reserves last year to fund the county. And we're gonna do it again this year. But you cannot sustain that because we still have to maintain a good reserve to operate the county in case something goes bad. And we're at that point that we cannot sustain it any longer, so cuts have gotta be made. And we're gonna get bloody on this before we're done. If the state keeps on their course, we're going to make some extreme cuts down the line.
And I guess just to clarify, it's, everybody took a hit, because the initial proposed or presented budgets was 2.2 million. And we need to keep a reserve, so if we kept going at the 2.2 million every year, it was not sustainable, so we had to cut it to 1.1, so everybody's taken a little bit of a hit.
Okay, so I think we have the direction then.
Yeah.
Commissioner, anything to add?
Well, I'm like Ian, I don't think we can tell that elected official how to do his job. And I think we're crossing that line to some degree. So I think we have to be really careful about what we're doing there, because how he does his job, that's his
It is.
job to decide. So for us to tell him, you can't provide this service or that service, I think we're crossing a line there that we shouldn't be crossing. That's my opinion. Now, I'm just one person up here, but I think we're pushing that line pretty hard, as far as I'm concerned. So I think we need to watch that. As far as giving direction to Travis as to how many FTEs for the sheriff's department to plan for next year, to budget for, I mean, I think we can set some type of number, because he needs some kind of number to budget for.
Yeah.
And that's his job, to do this budget. So I don't have a problem with that, and I'm not, I agree, we do seem like we have a lot of deputies in this county. And I think it would be better for our retention if we were paying them more,
Correct.
so that we could retain these guys instead of losing them to other counties all the time and to municipalities around the area. And I realize some of these that happen are, you know, just personality things. They can't get along with who they're working for. That happens. But money has a lot to do with it too, because we've never been able to really pay our deputies as much as the city or other municipalities around here can. So all those things are adding into our attrition rate from out there. But I think if we can actually increase their salaries, some like we've been trying to do, and get our better retention, we'll be way better off in the future with less numbers and paying them more to do a better job. So that's my opinion about the whole thing.
Which I think was all of our opinion. I think
Yes.
that's what we started talking about 3 years ago.
But I think, I don't want us to say,
You have to do this, you have to do that.
you have to do this and you have to do that. I think we can give Travis direction to plan, to budget, to plan for like 67 or whatever, since we're gonna have a little bit of attrition there. I don't have a problem with having him, but it's actually setting a firm number on there and saying you cannot have more than this. I think that's up to him and to make his budget work, not for us to give him direction how to do his job with so many men.
Sure.
I mean, that's my opinion. I just, if I was him and somebody told me you can only have 65 and I needed 66 or 67 to absolutely get my job done, I think I would hire those guys and make my budget work.
I think that's when we have to approve the pay plan, that's where the pay plan comes into effect for the budget of what you can provide. So
Well, and
it's
that's
all
what I
tied
mean.
together.
We can plan a budget amount for so much. And if he needs more than that, he's gotta make it work, because that's his budget.
So I think we're all on the same page. Okay. Anything else on that? Nope. Okay, going right through that then. Last week we had, and voted on, and Ian had to put forth a resolution for setting the land dedication fees for the Memphis School District RE6. We decided on the $550 per lot. I think this was already approved, is all we needed, the resolution, and then put a number to it, correct?
That's right. And in this resolution, what I did is I just set forth the previously adopted fees too, just so we have them all on one piece of paper so it's easier to access. So, you know, what this resolution is doing is it's setting $550 per lot for the Memphis School District. And then it's just memorializing the $535 per lot for Dolores and the $1,043.85 per plat for the Cortez district. So the Cortez and the Dolores fees haven't changed at all. I just wanted to get it all on one piece of paper so we weren't fishing around for 3 different resolutions from a bunch of different years.
So it has RE1, RE4, and RE6. Is there any
You okay?
question?
I don't have any. It's
No.
up to them. I move we approve resolution number 19-2023, a resolution setting school land dedication fees for the Memphis School District RE6 the Montezuma Cortez School District RE1 and the Dolores School District RE4A.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept and sign resolution number 19, 2023, a resolution setting school land dedicated fees for the Minka School District RE6, the Montezuma Cortez School District RE1, and the Dolores School District RE4A. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think this probably takes all of this. Okay. Oh. And then next, we also had a presentation. We had a couple, actually, we had 4 grants presented yesterday. This was one of them. A decision as it's regarding the Paso Mesa Verde for a grant. Rob, do you have anything else that you want to talk about or present to this one? This is just helping us with more funding to help with, to basically offset the cost of that. It's a small grant, $250,000 reimbursement. So any other questions on that?
No. Name of the grant. Okay, there we are.
It's, the grant funder is CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Right there we go. Okay.
So what is,
We signed the letter, signed the grant support letter for the Montezuma County grant application submitted form for CP3JC6K 322G3 with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
second?
Been moved and seconded to move forward with the grant application CP3JC6K 322G3. The grant funder, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We had another one that was brought forth by the Department of Social Services. Ms. Kelly Hargraves came down. This is a rolling application. It doesn't necessarily have to be done with this, and this was mostly due to security purposes and reasons for upgrades. This had cameras involved in it. It had ballistic glass. So it's a matter of, we can't accept this. We don't have to accept this. The conversation yesterday was how are we, and I asked the question is, if we put ballistic glass in the front, what are we doing with the 2 doors that are 2 steps away?
Yeah.
So do we roll this into that grant also? Or what's your ideas? What are your thoughts?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, if the commissioners deny this today, they can go back for additional funding for those 2 doors, correct? Because it is rolling?
Yes, this one's a rolling grant, so there isn't a deadline for it, and I don't believe that there's a specific maximum number. So if you were to not approve it today, we could bring it back later and make adjustments to the proposal.
I think I would prefer that.
Okay.
If we upgraded the grant and brought it back to include, to get it all in one shot if we can.
Potentially include those other 2 doors.
Well,
Yes.
right, because, I mean, like we talked about when we walked downstairs, you know, if they decide they don't want to go through 2 feet this way, they turn 1 step to the right, break the glass, and then they have exposure to the entire office.
Okay, I'll talk to
18
Kelly
people.
about adding that.
Instead of just the 2. So I don't think it's a question of, I think we need to look at all of it. If we're going to do it, we should do it all in one time.
Okay, absolutely.
Do you guys agree with that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
those are
that-
two big doors.
It'd be better. It'd be better if we could do all of it at once.
Okay, so then you'll just bring that back to us, Rob?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so no decision has to be made on that today. We also had one for the Rural Tribal Pilot Assistance Program for County Road G. This is probably the bigger one, and it is basically so that we can get together a shovel-ready project, and this would go basically from the state line all of the way out to 491.
So the rural and tribal assistance program, that's the smaller one, that's the $50,000 one.
Okay,
And then the other's the larger one.
the larger one,
Yeah.
okay.
But they're both looking at, they're both kind of planning grants for Road G to help us develop projects to make it shovel-ready, to be grantable.
So they're kind of both here together as the next two items, the reconnecting communities and then the pilot tribal grant. I mean, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done down there on County Road G, specifically that first 12 miles from the state line to that 12, 13-mile mark. I mean, we get requests in here all the time. There's a lot of rock mitigation that has to be done. There's a ditch. I guess it's an irrigation,
Yeah.
actual irrigation, right?
Yeah, we spoke yesterday on the what I had titled as the Road G culvert assessment. I can broaden that out, and it is a little broader in the actual grant application, but I can change the title and make it water and flooding mitigation, so we can include that ditch in that smaller the rural tribal assistance program piece. And then the other grant, the one that the grant request would be $420,000. That is to do master planning, project development, preliminary engineering, capture that first 12-mile project you mentioned, as well as really any other projects throughout Road G from the state line to the highway. So we know there's a lot of stuff that needs to go in there. So what Rob and I spoke about, Rob Engelhardt and I spoke about, is basically doing master planning and then having an engineer be able to kind of break it down into a few different projects so that we can develop and write grants to find money to help fund those, because we know that's, especially that 12-mile section, it's larger than the county's going to be able to fund on our own. So.
Questions?
No.
Okay.
I would so move we approve the application for the Tribal Pilot Assistance Program on County Road G, which is grant number CP3J. No, we just did that one.
That's just our UEI,
Okay.
the county's unique
You don't
identifier.
need that.
There's not a grant number for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the title.
Just the title, Rural and Tribal Assistance Program.
$50,000, how's that?
Second.
I did too.
So do you want, okay, we'll do
That's
them
the same.
individually. It's been moved and seconded to accept the request for application submission for the Rural and Tribal Assistance Program, Road G Culvert Assessment Grant in the amount of $50,000. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Secondly, we have the next one, which is also with Road G, which is the Master Planning Grant, the project development, and the preliminary engineering for Road G. Questions?
No.
So Road and Bridge has this budgeted in, their match, they do, okay.
We can put
Okay.
the match in there. It's just a matter of, we've done pretty good out on the northwest part of the county, getting everything down into, basically to get to those federal lands down there. But Road G consistently is
Yeah.
it's just a problem that has never gotten fixed. And with, like I said, with all of the rock and the ditch and everything that's down there,
I
it's
think the
gonna take a
engineering's
lot more
really
money to take care of this. And the engineering is the first portion that we have to have before we even have a shovel-ready project, to go look at what kind of funding it's gonna take.
Go ahead.
I move we approve this grant application submission form for the Montezuma County Road and Bridge Department for $420,000 for a Road G master planning project and preliminary engineering.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the grant application submission for the Road G Master Planning, Project Development, and Preliminary Engineering in the amount of $420,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lastly, we also had, from Public Health, a grants application for support of a moms group and a dental program. This was actually two different ones too, right, Travis? So the moms group was I'll go with the first one up here. This was for the dental support program, and I think Bobby presented everything to us yesterday of what they will be trying to fund as far as equipment for the program. And I think if you scroll down, she has a breakdown of it, which is $19,900, which we're $100 short. And that's basically what they're looking at if they are awarded the grant.
I would so move we sign the grant application for the dental support program, or dental clinic support program, in the amount of $20,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept and sign the grant application submission in the amount of $20,000 for the dental program. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next one was something new, and this was talked about. If this grant funding does not continue, what would they do with the program? And at that point in time, the program would be discontinued. This is for a support program for moms, and this is $5,800. So it's a very small grant, and that's. If you scroll down, I think she also had a submission of how it was broken out. Self-care items, dinners, subject matter experts, and books to explore. Question on this one?
No questions.
I move to approve this grant application submission form for the health department for the mom support group in the amount of $5,800 through the Lower Foundation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to sign the grant application submission through the Lower Foundation for the mom support group in the amount of $5,800. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, since you were sitting right there,
I can
you're going to
continue
be up
on.
next.
All right.
All right, Rob.
All right. So in addition to the grants that you just approved and looked at yesterday, I have some other updates. The solar project request for bid was published last week. Bids for that are due October 5th. That's relating to our energy impact grant from the state of Colorado to put a solar facility at the fairgrounds. On Proposition 123, which is the Colorado housing proposition, we are still working on a baseline. Shack Powers at Region 9 has been a lot of help with that, with trying to get a more reasonable number. I plan to bring a proposal to you in early to mid-October. If you choose to if you choose to put in a baseline, and what that would do is allow nonprofits, for-profits, anyone who wants to apply for grants through that program, it would make them eligible to apply for the unincorporated areas of Montezuma County. So I'll bring a proposal to you in probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
So
that would be due before November 1st for us to opt in for this year.
Right, I have a question for you. So we had a presentation at the Western District meeting about 3 weeks ago, and opting in or opting out, or basically, if we don't opt in, we're just out. So I called Ms. Cooperback, who now works for OEdit, who gave us a presentation. And because of that baseline, if our baseline was truly 26, I mean, we've talked about it before, we don't have the resources to physically get 26 units in the unincorporated part of the county. So with opting in and we don't achieve that number, then we are going to be docked that year, correct?
So
And we sit out that year.
So the way it would work is it works in sort of a 3-year cycle. So it wouldn't matter if the first year you didn't meet the goal. What you're really looking at is a total goal for the 3 years. So if you were to opt out of it, you're basically penalizing yourself. So you're not eligible that first year anyway. So if we were to opt in, we'd be eligible for that first 3 years. And then if we didn't, over that 3 years, meet the 3-year goal, then at least as of the way the state is saying it right now, we would become ineligible in that 4th year. But if you opt out, you just become ineligible right away. So I at least right now, would recommend we try to knock down the baseline to the lowest reasonable number and opt in based on that. Because if you opt out, you're out. If you opt in, you're at least in for 3 years, and then if we are out, you basically you would be out for a year, and then you would create a new baseline. That's sort of how that's set up.
So my conversation with her then, is there a rush to opt in this year, or would it be better to opt in next year? Because it didn't sound like we had a deadline for opting in. Is that correct?
The
or
opting
not?
in deadline is November 1st for this year, and then so if we didn't opt in before November 1st, we would be out for 2024, and then could re-look at it in another year.
So when I think about it, we have I mean, the N.M.P.M project is going forward with theirs, and we don't want to hurt the nonprofits in the community that are looking at housing at all. And if we don't opt in, then we actually do hurt them, is the way I understand it.
Yeah. Well,
But
and
I was-
the other program that I think would be particularly important for a rural county like ours that is also flowing through this system is the home repairs for lower income people. So if someone qualified financially, an individual, not a nonprofit or a business, but if an individual qualified, we would need to be opted in for them to be able to qualify for some of those programs. So my recommendation right now would be to opt in now and figure it out down the line.
And I would concur with Rob. I mean, if we opt in, and we go through our 3-year cycle, we don't meet our benchmarks, then we go back to the state and say your data was skewed for rural communities.
Well, I think the data,
Reevaluate it.
I think they realize that right now, don't they?
They do. Some of the issues related to the original ballot, the original ballot measure. So they were required to use the American Communities data as that was in the original ballot language. So I think there's some fixes coming down the line. So that's why I would say we kind of do the best we can now, opt in, cover ourselves for this 3 years, and then hopefully some things change at the state level, as well as we have the opportunity to try and meet whatever goal we end up with. Yeah.
And I think at the onset, we thought, this doesn't really affect Montezuma County. But we didn't take into consideration that it does affect our municipalities. So we need to think of that. I mean,
Well, they can opt in.
The municipality, so we would be opting in for the unincorporated areas. The
Right.
municipalities have to opt in for themselves.
Right.
And they'll have their own separate baselines. But the other piece too that we have talked about with the state, both Economic Development, Jessica Thurman and I went to a housing conference with the state, is that yes, we'd be opting in for a number, but there's also the ability of if there's a project that the county contributes to in any of the municipalities, we can partner with that and kind of share the numbers.
Right.
And so there is the potential of if we work with any nonprofit or or municipalities on a project in Cortez or in Dolores or in Mancos, we could, through an agreement with whatever that municipality is, use some of those numbers to meet our baseline and some would go to meet their baseline. So there's a little more flexibility there than it appeared when the original ballot language went through. And I do think the state is still kind of figuring it out as they go. So again, that's why I would kind of recommend we move forward and hope that we can adjust things and they have a clearer picture in 3 years than they do right now.
Okay.
But I'll bring that to you
Well,
in the
I
future.
think definitely, you know, from that presentation, the state realizes that the baseline is not,
Not
Ideal.
correct.
in rural America, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
In the Front Range, it probably will work. So, again, we don't, you know, we've talked about it, we don't wanna hurt anybody else within our region or in the county, but, okay, well, I guess we'll wait to see the new number
Yeah.
for the baseline.
I will bring that to you
Because the baseline
in the
of
future.
26, I believe, wasn't it?
I believe we should have a
Yes.
lower number than that, but yeah,
Was gonna be really, really tough.
it will be. It would be. Yeah.
Okay.
The next couple things, I'm working on a community wildfire defense grant. That would be due on October 31st. I'll present that to you in the future, but I just wanted to highlight it. Some of the things we want to include are some funding for wildfire adapted partnerships to make sure that our communities, our developments in our community have defensible space and create the safest environment from a wildfire perspective. We also are looking at including some addressing signage as part of that grant that would be not just a benefit on the wildfire side, but would also be a benefit for really any emergency services in the county. I'm also, sometime this fall, there's an upcoming grant from the state that should provide some funding for the coroner's office around drug testing and potentially more rapid testing. And I know that's a growing expense for the county. It's something that when I looked at the budget, I was surprised at how much we spend every year. So if anything we can do to defray the cost there, that's something I'm looking at. And then also a rural technical assistance grant that will fund some of the agriculture and water goals that are in the roadmap's economic development plan. So that's something that will be coming up. And then on the administration side of things, I am investigating condensing the county's UEIs, which are unique entity identifiers. It's sort of like a social security number for an entity, down to one for the county and one for the DA to simplify tracking on our side. I think in the past had up to 11. I think we're down to 5 or 6 now, but ideally we would have one for the county and one for the DA's office since they operate outside of the county as well, since they're the full 22nd district. And then also working with Phaedra on opportunities to maximize existing state funding that we receive for departments like social services. So I'm trying to help where I can to bring in whatever I can. And that's pretty much what I've got, unless you have any other questions.
You're a busy guy.
I'm trying to stay busy, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that we have to ask right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Appreciate it. Keep searching. All right. Okay, Ian, I know you have a lot to report.
Yeah, so last Friday, we had a hearing in our Ironwood case for the imposition of sanctions for the contempt that's ongoing for the failure to remove the wood waste from the pile down at the Ironwood mill site. The court assessed the following fines. Beginning yesterday from September 18th through November 12th, Ironwood's going to pay $7,500 per week for every week that wood waste remains on the ground out there, or for every week that they remain in contempt. From November 13th through December 10th, that's a period of 4 weeks, Ironwood will pay $25,000 per week for each week that wood waste remains on the ground. From December 11th to January 7th, that's a period of 4 weeks, Ironwood will pay $35,000 per week for each week that wood waste remains on the ground. And then from January 8th onward, Ironwood will pay $75,000 per week for each week that wood waste remains on the site. So that was the order of the court. And no further hearings are set in the matter, and so at this point, I think that we'll just have to see what happens at the mill site. So that was, I think that was a positive order. I think that the direction was given to get the pile up. I think direction was given to get the pile up before the weather comes. And, you know, so certainly there's been a lot of progress on the pile, but there's still a lot to go. And we know winter's coming, and so that was the order of the court. So very positive on that front. Other than that, I've been busy day to day, but as far as our civil cases that are in the courts, there's nothing really to update.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Ian?
I know you can't speak too much of it, but increase, decrease child protective services claims?
Yeah, so we've had a busy last month. I think on the year, filings are down slightly, and that really is a product of some of the new differential response work that they're doing in the Department of Social Services. What differential response is it's a mechanism by which our department works with families on the front end of cases to try to address the problems that are affecting families before it gets to a level where court intervention is necessary. And so that's a program that's being pushed around the state and used around the state. And I think all in all, it can be a great program because there are families that start to go down a path, so to speak. And if you can intervene early and keep things on track, that's going to be better for everybody. It's going to be better from a court perspective because resources aren't being expended. It's going to be better for the families because obviously going through the court process is never something that anybody wants. And so yeah, I think filings, but that being said, we do have some difficult cases going on. I know Steve had a couple jury trials set here next week. I think those are moving towards resolution, but it keeps rolling. Child protection is an ongoing thing, and in my experience, filings often go down during the summer when kids are not in school, and then when kids come back to school, obviously they're in contact with a lot more mandated reporters, and so you start to see a big spike in filings. So we'll see what happens, but I know that the child protection staff is always busy. It's a hard job, and then our assistant county attorney, Steve Tarnowski, is doing a great job staying on top of it too.
Thank you.
Okay, Travis?
Super busy week last week with budgets that pretty much consumed 85% of my time, but we were able to meet with the new hospital CEO. Mm-hmm. Real positive conversation. Seems like he's got a plan of action and willing to be a partner with everybody to be very successful. Again, budgets, we looked at some different benefit aspects as well. We'll probably bring those to you later on after we get Jake in to make his presentation. Phone calls with the tribe regarding the casino contract. Had a good conversation with Bentley on our work comp insurance, so that'll probably be forthcoming as well in the next week or two to the commissioners. And reached out to Dolores regarding their contract, and we'll see what their plan of action is too.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Lindsay.
Okay. Not much on the front of emails and phone calls, but I did attend city council last week. They're not very busy in council right now. I'm thinking it's going to pick up. But they bought some playground equipment and some heaters for the outdoor pool. And they did sign the letter of support to the Advanced Colorado Project, which is the broadband contractor letter of support that we also signed. And they did renewed some liquor licenses, and that's about the size of what they did. Yesterday evening, we did have a meeting with MCHD Board, Montezuma County Hospital District Board, and the SHS Southwest Health Systems Board. Pretty good meeting. Anybody should, it's up on YouTube. You can tune in YouTube and see what went on. It didn't last all that long, but it was a pretty good meeting. And then it was my privilege to go Saturday to the Veterans Stand Down. That was quite impressive. When I was there, the place was packed. I mean, you had to weave yourself in and out of people to get around, and it was a good program, and I really congratulate all the people and the vendors that put this on. Helped our veterans with a lot of different services they were hopefully to avail themselves of, and look forward to see them again next year. Saw a lot of good friends. That's all I have to report.
Okay, very good, thank you. Commissioner Copenhaver.
This past week on Wednesday, I had a budget meeting for Southwest Water Conservation District. There was also a AAA meeting that same day during the same time period. On Thursday, I went to Grand Junction for a Colorado River Task Force meeting that day. Spent all afternoon up there and had some good conversations about hopefully what direction we can go about getting some changes in the projects that can get funded. What's happened, you know, as far as agriculture goes, projects on farm, we could get help to do. You can get money through the NRCS and stuff to do. Just the last couple of years, if you had something that you could justify salinity or something like that, you could get some money for like the mutual ditch companies, but until that time, they didn't qualify for any of this.
The ditch companies.
The ditch company itself, you could get the money for your on-farm stuff, but the ditch company and that type of stuff, all of this infrastructure is like 100 and some years old. All these canals and everything were built a long time ago for the most part. Not just here. I'm talking about all over this western part of the of Colorado. We had a lot of discussion about was getting that changed so that we can get some help to fix this old infrastructure, because we're losing, when we go into a drought and we're losing some ditches, I would say an average of 25% at least is going out of the ditch. That we're just losing that much water.
Seepage and evaporation.
Through seepage and evaporation and out of it. You know, a lot of these canals are so big that you can't, it's not very feasible to pipe them, but at least they could be lined and fixed that way. But there's no help. So you take some of these projects, you're talking about millions of dollars, and these little mutual ditch companies, the only way they can get money is through their shareholders, through your assessments. 90% of your income has to come, I don't know, I shouldn't say 90%, because it's something like that in the law, that's where the biggest part of your money has to come from, is through assessments from your shareholders. So there's no way for them to raise the kind of money it takes to do these projects, and there's no help. So hopefully we can get that changed in the state law to where, because even the money that comes through the water roundtables and stuff, you cannot use it for infrastructure. So all of that needs to be, some of that stuff needs to be changed. And when we had quite a pretty good discussion about that up there, and I think we can work toward that goal to get the state to change some of that, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping I can work on.
So
to
the
get done.
infrastructure can get.
So the
boost.
infrastructure can get some funding, to get some help to do some of these big projects, because any of these canals, you start lining them stuff, and it just takes a lot of money. I mean, we've got several that we've done engineering on to look at the possibility of putting into pipe or lining and stuff, and it's just very expensive. Just the one project on the West Lateral was like $7 million to get over there, and that's not doing the whole thing. That's just doing across those two big canyons there. You know, getting around place where it's just, it takes a lot of money to do those projects, and it's just, hopefully, we can get some changes so that they would get some help, because some of the canals, even over east, some of those guys told me that their seepage is up to 50% loss.
Oh, wow.
So,
Well,
you
those
know, if
sandy
you,
soils
if you
will
want
take
to
it.
conserve some water and you want to do something, the state of Colorado needs to change these rules and get out there and actually put some money up
Fix
and
the
help to
infrastructure.
get these projects done, because we could save more water that way than any other way, in my
Yeah.
mind.
You
So-
don't lose it. We keep
And not
we
lose it,
don't
just not lose it out of the ditch. Then you don't have to put as much in there to, so it would help everything. I mean, as far as the stream flows, everything would be helped, but just by the fact that we're not losing so much to seepage.
So, I mean, if you pipe those canals, the Tamarask and the Russian olives have a barrier, they can't get water. What, is it the same way with a liner? Does it provide a barrier strong enough to keep those roots from?
You put a barrier underneath it that protects it from the rocks and
Yeah.
all that stuff, yes. Yeah, and a lot of the liners now, when you go in and put the liner in, then you shotcrete on top of that.
Uh-huh.
And it makes it where that liner's, you know, where things can get out of it too, because it's not so slick and
Right.
stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there's ways to do it, and it lasts longer if you shotcrete the thing too, if you shotcrete on top of that liner. So hopefully some of this stuff can get changed where we can get some help for these mutual ditch companies and irrigation districts to, I think we can do more and save more water that way than any other way.
Save what we have,
Yes.
just not lose it. Good. Okay. Anything else?
That's all I can think of.
Along with Travis last week, obviously, I met with the SHS hospital CEO. Again, like you said, he seems ambitious and ready to tackle the task at hand, and so I wish him all the very best. I spent a lot of time with the budget with Fada Travis and looking over it to see where we can actually provide these additional cuts. At our workshop yesterday, we've addressed pretty much everything that was on our agenda today, along with Commissioner Lindsay stating that we had our SHS MCHD board-to-board meetings last night. Short, sweet, to all of the tasks at hand, and I think it's going to work out well. I think the boards are talking to each other, and I think that's a good thing between all three of us to make sure that we're all on the same page and have a focus and a direction as we move forward. A lot of groups out there kind of helping the hospital right now, and it sounds like they do have some applications, and hopefully within, I'm going to say, the next 30 days, they have their SHS board filled. Which is good, because it's been vacant. There's been several vacancies for a long period of time, let me put it that way, and I think it's a step in the right direction. I kind of had one thing to talk about a little bit. Ian actually presented this to me yesterday. I haven't made a decision yet, or not yesterday, but last week, about after his conversation with CDPHE and your hearing, is that when they asked to be on the board of the solid waste program?
Yeah, I think I would have some ongoing conversations with CDPHE before
Okay,
you delve into that.
okay. Anyway, busy week, mostly dealing with again, the budgets and the budget committee. So with that is all that I have, gentlemen, and we have come to the end of our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn this Board of County Commissioners meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.